Hello children, welcome to the Bridge Course digital classes. Children, what do you do during your vacation period? Yes, that is after completing your exam, you want to refresh yourself, isn't it? So what do you do at that time? Yes, you go to your relatives' place. Most of us go to our grandparents' place to spend the vacation. Many of us visit some religious places and many of us would like to visit some new places. Yes or no? So why do you go to new places, children? What do you want to know? Yes, we want to know about the places which is there in the new places, and many of us are fond of visiting the new places. So once you go to the new places, what would you like to see? Yes, you would like to see some famous places of that particular city where you are going to visit it. So can you name the few places which you visit when you go to some new tourist place? Yes, we will visit some forts, some religious places like temples, mosques, churches, some palaces, some forts, some historical monuments and some historical structures. Yes, now when talking about the history, children, can you tell me what is history? Yes, the study of the past is called as a history. And how are we getting the information about our past? It is because of these monuments and some structures which were constructed in those days, and some of the written form of a literature will help us to know about the history of our glorious past. Here children, when you go to the new place, what would you like to know about that? I repeat, what would you like to know about the tourist? I repeat, about the tourist places which you are visiting. You would like to know about some details like when was it constructed, who constructed it, why it is constructed in a particular way, what is the architectural style, etc. Isn't it, children? So there are so many historical places in India, children. We are going to learn about some historical monuments of Telangana, the kings who built those buildings like forts, etc. So children, our today's topic is Telangana kings, buildings and the forts which are constructed by them. At the end of this topic, you will be able to explain about the types of structure and their skill. You will be able to write the features of the forts built in the Telangana. You will be able to explain about the greatness of the kings who ruled in Telangana. You will be able to identify the places having forts in the Telangana map. You will be able to compare the structures constructed in the past with that of the present structures, and you will be able to explain about the Vanaparti Fort, the Golkonda Fort, the Uruguala Fort and the Kilashfur Fort. Children, before we learn about the structure, let us find out why these structures were built and who built it. These beautiful structures were built by kings and their officers, and these structures were mainly of two types. One is of the grandiose places and other is of the structures which are meant for the public activities. Grandiose places in sense, children, which is having a beautiful outlook, lavish places with beautiful lights, intricate carvings on the walls, beautiful paintings and the big rooms, and which is mainly meant for the royal families, that is the ruling families like the kings, the leaders and their ministers and the people who are having a very high position at the administrative level. And talking about the structures which are meant for the public activities comprises of some temples, mosque, church, granaries where the food grains can be stored, some halls where the public meetings can be conducted, etc. So total of the buildings were divided into two types. One is of the grandiose places and the other is about the structures which are meant for the public activities. Now let us learn about each of it in detail. We will begin with the forts, palaces and tombs. Forts are the buildings with the high walls and which are protected by the guards. Yes children, inside the fort you will find a mini city. That means it comprises of the royal families administering it. You will find the ministers inside it. You will find some agricultural lands, some artisans making some handicrafts. Inside the fort, children, you will find the mini city comprising of the people involved in different activities. and it will be having a great wall surrounding it, and it is always protected by the guards. That means if some enemies are going to attack the fort, they will be able to know, and at the same time they will be protected also. And these forts will be having multiple gates. They will be having 4 gates on 4 sides, so that they can stop the enemies, and if in case the enemies enters the forts, they can rescue the people from the other gates. Now talking about the other structure, children, it is the palace. Palace is meant for the kings to live in, and palaces are having a very lavish outlook. It will be having very big rooms with lot of artifacts, with beautiful paintings on the walls and intricate designs which are made on the walls. In fact, it is very different from the ordinary houses, and it is mainly meant for the people of the royal family. And the other structure comprises of the tombs. Tombs are the places, children, where the people are buried after death. Now you will be wondering what is so great, but the kings in the olden days, children, were having a very royal lifestyle, and even they wanted to maintain that royalty. They wanted to maintain their royalty after the death also. So even for their tombs, the big buildings were constructed, and you can find many such places having tombs in many parts of India. For example, in Hyderabad we have Golkonda tombs, which comprises the tombs of the royal family of 𝗂𝗽𝗱𝗁 dynasty, and even you can find a Humayun tomb in Delhi. These are just a few examples, children. If you go all over India, you will find some tombs as well. So these was about the grandiose places. Now let us learn about the other structure. The other structure comprises of the public activity building. It includes temples. Now children, you will be wondering, how can we consider the temple as a public activity building? In the olden days, children, they were not having any places of entertainment like we have in the present times. We have so many shopping malls, we have a theatres to go around and entertain ourselves. But in the olden days, temple was considered as a social hub. It was a place where the people will not only go to worship the god, but it is a place of a public meetings as well. How the festivals are to be celebrated, when it is to be celebrated, what are the new things that has to be included during the festivals, and many other important meetings related to the family, that is the personal meetings as well as the professional meetings, were also conducted in the temples. Not only temples, children, we are talking about the other religious places also, like temples, mosque, church, etc. So the people of that particular community will meet there, will gather there and take the important decisions. Now these public meeting comprises of the religious places like temples, mosques, etc. children. So the people of that particular community will gather there and take the important decisions related to the community and related to the celebrations of the festivals. The other public building comprises of the tanks. In the olden days, children, agriculture was the main occupation of the people, and water is required for our many day-to-day activities. So tanks were built by the kings and other rich class people so that the water can be used in the times of a need. Whenever the rain falls, the water can be stored in these tanks, and in the times when the water is not available, they can take the water for agriculture and irrigation purposes as well as for drinking and their day-to-day needs as well. Even there used to be the wells, children. You must be knowing about the wells, which is having one ring kind of a thing and a rope and a bucket, and you will be putting the bucket down, you will be filling the water and pulling it up. Isn't it, children? But in those days, there used to be the step wells. Step wells in sense, you have to get down the steps and you can go and wash the clothes. There used to be the separate wells for the men and women so that they can have bath and they will have their own privacy while taking the bath. And these wells were also used for fetching the water for their day-to-day requirements, and even it is used for the agriculture and irrigation facilities. The other building comprises of the caravan or sarais. The other building comprises of caravan sarais. Sarai in sense, children, lodge or the hotels. In the present times, if you go to visit some new places and if you don't have a relatives residing in that place, where will you go and spend your night? Yes, we will be spending the nights in the hotels. So these are the hotels in the olden days. And nowadays, children, we travel from one place to another place by different means of transport. But in the olden days, it was not like that. The people used to travel on foot, and while traveling on foot they used to take some animals along with them like horses, camels, etc. So here you can see children, in this particular structure it is having a wide opening and a big gate. That means here the animals will also be allowed to reside with the human beings, so that the animals can also take rest during the night hours, and even the travelers who are traveling from one place to another place can relax here, or they can have a good sleep in the night hours, and next day they can proceed with their journey. So many caravanserais were also constructed in those days. And the another public building is bazaars. Bazaars are nothing children, but it is the market. Okay, nowadays we have a supermarket and we have a shopping malls to go, but in the olden days there were the markets. The people used to come from the distant lands and they used to sell their products here. So there were the bazaars. Bazaars are nothing but the marketplaces. So these are some of the public activity buildings, and the kings were expected to look after their subjects, and by making these structures for their use and comfort, rulers hoped to win their praises. These all the structures were mainly made for the comfort of the people who are living around, and the rulers wanted their people to like them, to love them, and to praise them even after their death. And that's the reason so many public buildings were constructed in the olden times. And this construction activity was also carried out by some other rich section of the society like merchants. Yes, even they used to give some donations in the form of a land or in the form of a gold or cash for the construction of the religious places like temples, mosques, and even for the constructions of wells and tanks. Now children, let us have a look at some of the important forts in our Telangana, and let us see the districts in which they were built, and let us know about the dynasties or the kings who have constructed that monuments, and let us learn about the kings and the dynasties that have constructed those buildings. We will begin with the Uruguala Fort in Varangal district, which was constructed by the Kakatiyas. It is in Varangal district children. Then comes the Gadwal Fort, which you will find in Jogulamba district, and it was constructed by 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧, and it was constructed by King 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧. It is in Jogulamba, Gadwal children. And then we will learn about the Rachakonda Fort, which is found in Nalgonda district, and it was constructed by Recharla Singama Nayaka in Nalgonda district. And then comes the Golkonda Fort, which you can find in district Hyderabad, and it was constructed by Kuli Qutub Shah in Hyderabad. Then we have Domakonda Fort, which is in Kamareddy district, and it is constructed by the Kamineni dynasty. Here children, you can see the locations as well. I am showing you the locations also where you can find these forts. Next comes the Bhuvangiri Fort, which is constructed in Yadadri district, and it was constructed by Tribhuvana Malla Vikramaditya. Then we have Devarkonda Fort, found in Nalgonda district, and it was constructed by Recharla Padmanayaka in Nalgonda. And then we have Khammam Killa in the district Khammam, which was constructed by the Kakatiyas. Then we have Falaknuma Palace in Hyderabad district, which was built by Sir Vikar-ul-Umra in Hyderabad. Then we have Vanaparti Fort, which you will find in the district of Vanaparti. It was constructed by Janum Veera Krishna Reddy. Then we have a Kilashfur Fort in Jangaon district, and it was constructed by Sarvai Papanna in Jangaon. And then we have Medak Killa in Medak district, and it was constructed by Pratap Rudra. So children, these are some of the forts which we find in our Telangana state. So our Telangana state is also very, so children, our Telangana state is also very rich in the cultural heritage. Aren't you proud of being the citizen of Telangana state? Yes, we are all very proud. And if you get a chance, children, you please go and try to visit all these forts, because it will tell you about the history of our glorious past. There are many forts symbolizing the history of Telangana state. Some forts like Uruguala Fort, Gadwal, Golkonda, Rachakonda, Devarakonda, Bhuvangiri, Domakonda, Vanaparti, etc. are very famous forts. Kings in those days used to construct the forts for the protection from the enemies or as a symbol of their victories. they used as an evidence to the hundreds of years of history. So children, these are the forts which were constructed in the olden times, and you can see the architecture is so strong that till the date they are standing still. It is not disturbed. Isn't it amazing, children? Now let us begin about one of the fort, that is the Vanaparti Fort. You can find Vanaparti Fort in the district of Vanaparti of our state. It is 140 kilometers away from Hyderabad, and the place is called as Vanaparti. Do you know why the place got that name, children? Because the place was surrounded by many forests. Vana means forest. So the place surrounded by forest was called as Vanaparti. Hence the place got the name as Vanaparti. It was constructed by 𝗳𝗏𝗏 The founder of this Vanaparti estate was 𝗳𝗏𝗏. He used to live in Pattapalli in 1510 Common Era, and he built a fort in Sugur near Pattapalli and shifted his residence to Sugur, and it was named as the Sugur estate from then onwards. Though he was from Pattapalli, children, he shifted to Sugur and he has constructed the fort there, and he called it as a Sugur estate. Now this Sugur estate was the subordinate kingdom under Golkonda Sultans. Children, in the earlier topic I told you that the work of the kings in the olden days was only the expansion of kingdom, and they were not having time to look after their whole kingdom, so they were taking the help of their subordinates. So this Sugar estate was also the part of the Golkonda Sultans. Golkonda Sultan has given this particular part to 𝗳𝗏𝗏 and asked him to look after that particular place, and because of this the sugar estate has come into existence. They were looking after the area and they were helping in the administrative affairs to the Golkonda Sultans. During those days, Golkonda was ruled by Sultan Quli Qutub Shah, and the estate rulers were called as Reddy Rajulu, that is Reddy kings. The capital of estate was changed from Pattapalli to Sugur, from Sugur to Peddajanampeta, from Peddajanampeta to Kottakota, and later to Srirangapuram. Ramakrishna Rao was one of the Reddy lords, and he shifted the capital from Srirangapuram to Vanaparti in 1807 Common Era. Vanaparti continued to be its capital until it merged into the Indian Union in 1947, that is after our country got independence in 1947. Here in Vanaparti, children, total of 15 generations ruled from 1510 Common Era to 1948 Common Era. There were total of 17 kings and 6 queens, and the kings of these estate worked hard for the development of agriculture, that is by the construction of the tanks, wells, etc. They did a lot for the development of the agriculture. They constructed total of the 7 huge tanks in the villages that fall under the range of their estate, and these 7 tanks were called as 𝗧-𝗦𝗔𝗧, that means 7 seas, and these tanks provided irrigation facilities to the thousands of acres of land. Drinking water needs were also served by these tanks. So children, this was all about the Vanaparti Fort. If you get a chance, do go and visit that fort and get some more information and share it with your friends. Now let us learn about the another fort, that is the Varangal Fort. It is also called as a Musunuri, which is a historical site, and it is also known as the fort of the Kamma Nayaka kings and the fort of the Kakatiyas. It is 2 kilometers away from the Varangal railway station. It is located at the distance of 12 kilometers from Hanmakonda, and it was built in the 12th century. Children, when Kakatiyas became king, their first capital was Hanmakonda. Later it was shifted to Orugallu, that is Varangal. So children, this particular fort is located at the distance of 12 kilometers from Hanmakonda. Now children, the fort is not there. Because of the times, only the remains of the forts are visible. If you go there, you will not find the full fort. The fort is fallen, children, but only the remains of the fort are there. But there are the masonry pillars of the fort, and which are used as the royal seal of the present day Telangana state. Here children, this is called as a Kirti Toranam. of Kakatiya rulers, and this is used as the royal seal of present day Telangana. Here children, now you will be wondering, how do I have information about all these places? Isn't it? I told you the study of the past is called as history, and we do know about the history with the help of the inscriptions. So about these places children, there are large number of inscriptions. Inscriptions means the notes which are written on the walls of the temples or on the copper plates. In those days there were no pens and papers like we have in our present times. So the people used to inscribe it on the walls of the temples. So you can find many such inscriptions in Bayaram, Thousand Pillars Temple, Nagulapadu, Pillalamari, Palampeta, Kondaparthi, Bhutpur, etc. And all these inscriptions tells us about the activities of the kings, queens, chiefs, farmers, herders and traders. That means who all the people have contributed to the society and who all have done some needs which is helpful for the society. Everything will be inscribed on the walls. And with the help of those inscriptions, I am able to teach you these lessons today. So it gives us about the information of the past. Kirti Torana, entrance of the 𝗬𝗪𝗔𝗧 temple. These are some of the structures which were built by Kakatiya kings in Varangal. The first ruler of the Kakatiya dynasty was Rudrama children. He ruled from 1158 to 1195 Common Era. And as and how he became the king, the capital was at Hanmakonda, that is present day Hanmakonda, and later he shifted it to Orugallu, the present times Varangal. The new city was laid out in such a way children that when the population increases, it will have the capacity to accommodate all the people, and even it was constructed addressing the needs of an imperial capital. The capital is a place children where the kings will be residing. The other kings or the traders will come and visit the king in the capital city only. So while making the capital city, they made sure that it should look like an imperial capital. It should be having all the headquarters, and when the people come to visit it, they should remember their dynasty. Rudradeva built a big fort for the protection of the people from their enemies. He built a tank for providing agriculture and irrigation facilities to the people, and even he constructed a temple, a very famous temple, that is 1000 Pillar Temple in Hanmakonda. This is a beautiful tourist visiting site children. Many tourists come every year from far off places to visit this 1000 Pillar Temple. And the speciality of this temple is that it is having 1000 pillars. It is made of 1000 pillars. So the people come from all over the world to visit these places. And as I told you children, this is a place of a social hub. That means the people used to gather there. That's the reason he constructed some places of the public activities also. This is a 1000 Pillar Temple children. Now look at the map of the Orugallu Fort children. You can see an outer fort wall with 4 gates. This wall is protecting the agricultural lands and several water tanks within it. In this area there were huts of many artisans like basket weavers, and after crossing these we come to the center where there was another moat and a fort wall made of mud. So this is the Varangal Fort map children. It had 4 gates opening out into the east, west, north and south, and from each gate a main road went to the center of the city. There was a temple of 𝗬𝗪𝗔𝗧. This temple too had 4 gates in the 4 directions. Further towards the center was another moat and the fort wall made of stone. The city buildings and palaces were within the stone wall. Among those Kakatiya rulers children, there was a very famous woman ruler, and her name was Rudrama Devi. She was a powerful and successful ruler who impressed one and all with her abilities. And Rudrama Devi ruled from Orugallu, that is modern Varangal, and belonged to the famous Kakatiya family. She ruled from 1262 Common Era to 1289 Common Era, that is for nearly 27 years. Now let us learn about the Golkonda Fort. It is an ancient city. It is 11 kilometers away from Hyderabad, that is the capital of Telangana state. Golkonda city, the fort, is total of 120 meters and it is built on a high black stone hill. A large tower was built around the fort to protect it. Golkonda is a complex of 4 different forts, one built around the other. The Qutub-Shahis played a major role in the fortification of the fort, and during the reign of the Nizams, there was a mound on the east side outside the fort, and the Nizam built a wall around the fort which he considered difficult to move if it was invaded by the enemy. Now if you will go and visit the fort, children, you will find like it is an unbuilt one. The fort is 10 kilometers long and it is having 87 crescent shaped towers, and it has a long wall. Some of the towers still contain the artillery. Artillery means the weapons which are used in the warfare like cannons, guns, swords, etc. And there are also 8 lion gates, 4 drawbridges, lots of palaces, mosques, temples, stables, and so on. Above all, children, the fort is very famous for Fateh Darwaza, which is called as the Gate of Victory. Large iron bars were erected on the southeastern side to prevent the arrival of elephants. Fateh is said to have mastered the phonology to build the darwaza. The clapping at a certain point under the dome can be heard most clearly at Balahisaru, the highest point in the Golkonda, which is a kilometer away. This feature was once used by locals to indicate the danger signs, but now it remains a place for entertainment for visitors. Now children, we are going to learn about the last fort, that is the Kilashfur Fort. It was constructed by Sardar Sarvai Papanna, who belongs to the Varangal district and who fought against the Mughal rule in Telangana. He lived during the period of Aurangzeb. He supported the lives of many poor people who were backward and downtrodden. Papanna occupied the Telangana area from the Mughal rule between 1687 to 1724 Common Era, built a fort in Kilashpur, which was also considered the capital city in the Varangal district. Having seen the operations and atrocities committed by Mughals during that time, he raised a small army for himself for fighting against Mughals and trained them in guerrilla attacks. Papanna controlled the forts of Bhuvangiri, Kolanapako of Nalgonda, Tatikonda, Cheryala of Varangal, Huzurabad, Husnabad of Karimnagar, and he constructed his first fort in Sarvaipeta with the aim of expanding his rule. He constructed forts in Tatikonda, Vemulakonda and Shapuram. An existing check dam constructed during the rule of Papanna in Tatikonda shows that he was a development-oriented king to develop the region under his control. However, in a long battle at Tatikonda, later at Kilashpur, he escaped, but he was caught and beheaded in 1712 Common Era. So children, these are some of the forts of Telangana. I hope I was able to give you a little information about it, and I hope I encourage you to visit those places. Now let us have a quick recapitulation of what all we learned today. Children, today we learnt about the Telangana rulers and some important buildings constructed by them. Then we learnt about the important forts of Telangana state. There we covered the Vanaparti Fort, the Golkonda Fort, the Uruguala Fort and the Kilashfur Fort. And we were also able to locate the forts on the map of Telangana. Based upon our today's topic, here comes your assignment. I am going to give you some questions. Please note down in your notebook. You have to explain about the types of structures and their skill. You have to write the features of the forts built in the Telangana. You have to explain about the greatness of the kings who ruled Telangana. You have to identify the places having forts in the Telangana map. You have to compare the structures constructed in the past with that of the present. And you have to explain about the Vanaparti Fort, the Golkonda Fort, the Uruguala Fort and the Kilashfur Fort. So along with this question, children, please practice the worksheets which are published by SCRT. You can procure these worksheets from the official website of SCRT. So children, I hope I was able to take you to the virtual trip to the Telangana state, and I think you found it interesting. With this, I take your leave. Keep learning. Thank you.